We are back with Robert C. Gumbs of MNN's The Concerned Forum. Robert, thank you so much for being here with us today and discussing all of these hot topics with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you guys invited me.
Yeah, we're glad too.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Via.
We just wrapped up talking more about the potential overturning of Roe versus Wade, which is deeply, deeply concerning. But we do want to pivot to another issue that we wanted to discuss with you. At the beginning, we shared a little excerpt from an opinion article from the New York Times about an open letter from President Biden from dispirited Black voters and feeling disappointed and unseen and like promises weren't being met. And how do you feel after reading that letter, and what stuck out to you that you would like to expand on a little bit?
Well, generally, I understand where the writer is coming from. I think that the writer needs to maybe do a little of thinking, though. Now, you have to remember something. Supposedly, at least until Donald Trump, in this country, we elected presidents, not emperors or kings. So whatever Joe Biden tries to do, he has to have people behind him. That's the way the law works in this country, or at least it's supposed to. Now, as far as him living up to his promises, about the only problem I have with Joe Biden is that when he came in, he was a bit too nice. He had this idea that, okay, you got Trump out of there, I'm here. And let's face it, I mean, he's one of the most decent people, you'll ever want to meet. I met him quite a few times when I was stationed in D.C. And he's a great guy.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and, he knows how he knows himself as a person. The problem is that he underestimated the capacity of evil that many of the people, elected Republicans, have nowadays.
Right.
For example, voting rights. Okay? The only thing that I think he could do, and I'm gonna have to look that one up, is as president maybe make some type of executive order, right? And we haven't gotten into the elections yet. So what happens in October, I don't know what he might try and do then.
You mean November, right?
No, October, because November's the election.
Right.
If he's going to make a plan to do anything in regards to voting rights or any kind of voting activity, you're probably going to see it between September and October. Now, something else could be getting federal marshals and either have them right inside the polling places for the federal office holders or outside. And I think that we should have federal marshals outside of all the voting places. And then naturally, as usual, you have both Republicans and Democrats, because that's how you do. If you work at the polls, that's what you'll see. You have Republicans and you have Democrats counting together, checking things out together, and that's fine. You have a fair process. The only difference that I would say needs to be made is that you have marshals, not troops, not, if there's no need for it, put it that way. But we should have federal marshals outside all of the polling places to protect people. And when the Republicans say, well, what is that, some kind of political stunt or whatever, all you have to say is, hey, listen, look at all of the threats that have been made, people that have been attacked. I mean, you had people trying to commit murder just for recommending that kids wear a mask in school. So, yeah, for voting, people have a right to be protected, see? And I believe that that's one of the things that Biden should do. Other than that, I think that he's done quite well given the circumstances. I think, and again, this is probably just me, I think that he came in trying to show too much goodwill.
Right.
And I know that sounds crazy, but when you sit down and think about it, we're in a situation almost like war.
Yeah.
The right wing
Yes.
in America has declared war on our democracy, and as we saw from Buffalo, and in El Paso, and
Yes.
in Pittsburgh, against people who are different.
Right.
Right.
So you have to have the proper attitude. That's one of the problems that I have with my congressperson.
Yeah.
I'm up in the Bronx, and we have Ricky Torres up there, and he is a very nice young man, affable, well spoken. He was he was for the city. He was on the city council for my district before he ran for Congress, and he's a very good guy. And like I said, any mother would be happy to see her daughter bring a guy like this home. But see, the problem is that the kind of fighter that we need now?
Right.
You have members, elected members, or members trying to get elected of the Republican Party, basically giving a green light to people who believe in this damn replacement theory.
Right. And here's a question I want to bring up here, because obviously, as President Biden is president of the United States, but people, I hear people of color, even through social media, and like they saying that Biden's not doing enough for us people of color, but people are not understanding that Biden has a lot on his plate and he's doing all he can to keep his promise. So like, what is it, do you think, that advice that you should give to the young people and the people of color, advice for Biden for folks to understand that Biden's doing all he can, but he has a lot of it on his plate and it will take time? Because obviously people are just like kind of like rushing for like no reason, basically, you know?
Well, I would tell people, look, if you're serious, all right, number one, did you vote last time around? And are you making sure that you vote this time around? That's the first thing.
Yes.
Okay? And I know it sounds partisan as all hell. I'm not trying to be partisan. I'm trying to save lives. And they need to ask themselves, what will this country look like if you have a predominantly Republican House of Representatives? That is, if they know the difference between the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Because surprisingly enough, a lot of people out there don't know the difference between the House, the Senate, or when you say Congress.
Yes.
And which term you're supposed to use. And a lot of people also, well, so-and-so Senator Joe said so-and-so. Well, he went down to Washington and said that. No, man, he was up in Albany and he said that. The difference between a state senator and the United States senator. See, you have to know what your country is about. You have to know how it works, all right? You have to know why things are the way they are. You have to know that this is not the first time that we've been faced with backwardsness, ignorance, and violence. Okay, that's an American story.
Yeah, it is.
What we have to be about now, we have to be about ending this insanity once and for all, because we cannot continue to go into the 21st century and after that the 22nd century with this constant albatross hanging around our neck, this albatross of hate, of racial hatred, of ethnic hatred. We cannot do that. We can't function. We will not be able to function as a democratic republic. It ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. And you're seeing signs of that now.
Yes.
So as a young person of color, I would say what you need to do is you need to get out there and fight the same way my parents fought, the same way I fought back in the 70s and going into the 80s. And also understand, the fight is never over. And I know that sounds a hard thing to say, but you're always going to have people where you see love, they just want to see hate.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared for that.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We all have to be prepared for that. I just wish we had more time with you, Robert, but this has been a pleasure, you know.
Well, it's been a pleasure
Thank
being
you.
here.
Yes,
And I thank
once
you folks
again.
for inviting me.
Thank
You're very
you.
welcome. Our special thanks to Robert C. Gumbs. You can catch his show, The Concern Forum, Saturdays on MNN. Check MNN.org for the local listings, and we'll be right back, y'all.